Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another Whiteboard Wednesday with Rchard C. Pendry. We talk about topics that affect security, and also this really should be seen as your free security primer. It doesn't replace a full course, but what it will do is it will help you brush off on elements. Rchard, thank you very much for putting this together.
Yes, be back here, Gareth. These weeks are coming around very quickly. I would contradict you slightly there as regarding the course. This course is, when we put it all together, it will be the equivalent of a week-long course that I teach for.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't realize this was the actual course. Wow, yeah. Guys.
So what I'm doing, right? So what I'm doing with this is that I'm boiling it down. We're doing micro learning, okay? For those that don't know me, I've been in the security industry for 20 years. And what I specialize in is consultancy and training. So I train for I train for my own company, and I also train for some leading, if not the leading, risk management company in the UK, training company in the UK. And what I'm doing is, if you wanted to get this information, it would cost you hundreds, if not thousands, okay? So I'm very conscious of the fact that we're all very busy. So what Whiteboard Wednesday does is micro-learning. We boil it down. It's 10, 15 minutes of the key points within the topic of security risk management within protective security. So that's what it's all about. And the reason we call
I had no idea it was that in depth, guys. Yeah. You should jump on this.
Yeah, look, I've done 8 years in academia, but what I found with academics, they love to talk, okay, and they don't give you solutions. What I'm trying to do is keep it short and give you actual tools that you can use, okay?
All right, well, so that's what Whiteboard Wednesday is about. What is today's topic? Situational awareness.
Situational awareness. Now, situational awareness is this big buzz term that is going around at the moment. Yeah, situationally aware and all the rest of it. And basically, you use your situational awareness every single day. If you're driving, you should be situationally aware. You're aware of what's going on around you. If you're crossing the road, you're walking down the street, you should be situationally aware. Situationally aware is being able to be conscious of your environment and be able to identify dangers within that environment. So it can be for the individual on the street, and it will go right through the actual organization from the C-suite down. It's just being aware and being able to identify the dangers within your operational environment. So this is the 4th episode. We call it Whiteboard Wednesday, and we do it on a lunchtime, so you can watch us while you're having your lunch or having a cup of tea. So okay, so let's crack on, because I know that you're busy. So put your headphones on, grab your cup of coffee, grab your lunch, and here we go. Situational awareness. Let's start off with a definition. I think I like my definitions. So, situational awareness, the ability to perceive what is happening in your environment, understanding what it means, and anticipate how it might develop. This allows informed decisions to be made. When you've got situational awareness in place, it acts like a kind of early warning system. You're able to spot red flags before they become real threats. Think of it as radar. What does it enable us to do? It enables us to detection of threats, early threats, enhances safety and preparedness, improves decision making in dynamic environments. And let's face it, the risk management environment is dynamic and reduces the risk of surprise or escalation. Now, situational awareness is a tool that can be used at all levels within the organization, from the very top, from the C-suite, all the way down to individuals who just want to keep themselves safe and secure. Think of it as scanning the horizon for danger. There are a number of tools that can be used to actually detect danger for an organization, detect the threats. Some of you might have heard of PESTLE and SWOT. Okay, quickly to go over the PESTLE. It involves political, regulatory changes, unrest, policy shifts. Economic, you're looking at inflation, unemployment, market instability. Social, demographics, public sentiment, social unrest. When we look at technology, new threats, digital transformation, look at artificial intelligence, for example. We look at legal, compliance, data protection laws, environmental, natural disasters, climate, and impact. Okay, all of these things could impact on your organization. When we look at a SWOT analysis, we look at the strengths of your organization. Strength could be trained staff, strong protocols, resilient systems. Weaknesses, gaps in awareness, outdated tech, low reporting. Opportunities, new tools, training, cross-functional learning, and threats. Inside the threats, external attacks, system vulnerabilities, anything that you've identified that will impact on your assets. Now, when we look at PESTLE and SWOT, these two tools can be used at what we call the macro and meso level. Okay, so if your organization is a big organization and it deals in a geographical region, Europe, for example, Europe would be the macro level and the UK would be a meso level. Okay, so these are quite tools for scanning the big horizon. In Whiteboard Wednesday 3, we spoke about AVPO, which I use for actually identifying the risks in a small geographical area. Now, when we want to bring that down to an individual level, we have to have a look at the senses that we were given. Okay, the 5 senses are taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing. Those are the 5 tangible assets. But I would argue that there is a 6th sense. Intuition, that gut feeling, that hair rising up in the back of the neck when you think something is wrong. And generally, when you think something is wrong, it doesn't look right, it's because it's not right. Now, my 6th sense has got me out of trouble on many occasions during my career. When we look at individuals walking along, I'm amazed at they have their earphones in, they're looking on their phones, they just get rid of the 2 most important senses, sight, okay, and hearing. How many times have you nearly been accosted by people walking into you in the street? And of course, if you take away those 2 senses, then you are prey. We hear about it all the time that individuals are accosted in the street, they're assaulted, they're mugged because they're just not aware of what is going on around them. But despite all the tools and all the senses, the biggest enemy I would suggest is complacency. And complacency just means you just get used to your environment. You stop seeing the dangers. There's a really good example of this with the boiling frog syndrome. Just go over this paradigm that's used within risk management. You have a beaker of water, you have a pan of water, and it's cold water. You put the frog in the water, and then you heat up the pan. The frog gets gradually used to the water heating up, and by the time the danger comes and the water gets too hot, the frog is incapable of jumping out of the hot water. However, if you have a boiling hot pan of water and you put a frog into there, the frog will automatically jump out. Boiling frog syndrome. Now, I just want to share with you something, a personal experience of mine when I was in Iraq, which I would call it complacency, I would call it numbness. And what happened was that myself and my colleagues were in Basra. It was 2007. The incoming fire had gradually got worse and worse and worse over the 2 years that we'd been there. And I remember myself and about 4 or 5 colleagues were sitting around a table and we were having lunch. And we were in a dining facility that had around about 30 to 40 tables, and there was 100 people there easily. And lunchtime, and this huge crump came. It was a mortar round that landed within a couple of 100 meters of us, and the whole building shook. And I remember holding my hand up like this to stop the dust from the ceiling actually coming down onto our food. And we were all doing this. We just carried on. Yeah, that was a close one. And I looked around, and we were the only table, the 4 or 5 of us that was on that table, we were the only ones that were still sitting there. Everybody else had gone under the table to protect themselves for possibly falling shrapnel. And I thought to myself, yeah, I've got too complacent with this environment. To a certain extent, I'm no longer seeing the danger. And not long after that, I decided to end my contract and I came home. The cost of poor situational awareness is the ability to identify the threats. And if you're unable to identify the threats, it means increased vulnerability of the assets and delayed or inappropriate response to incidents. And of course, if you fail to secure your assets, we spoke about this in Whiteboard Wednesday too, it can have a major impact and might even put you out of business. And on a personal note, you could end up being robbed or assaulted.
That is amazing. That story I loved. It made you realize that even in the most drastic of situations, you can become complacent and allow what normally you, I, or anyone else would consider to be outrageous circumstance to become the norm. And that's when situational awareness, I guess, is all important.
I think it goes deeper to that. I think it's involved with the conscious and the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind will actually push the dangers off to one side, because if you're alert all the time, your body can't cope with it. You will go into sort of a state where you just collapse because you can have a nervous breakdown. So I think it's also a neurological thing as well, but it does happen. It's happened to me. I see it happening to organizations all the time. So
we have a comment, Richard.
Yeah.
Somebody said situational awareness is only, you haven't identified yourself, LinkedIn user. If you would give us your name, then we can of course ascribe this to you. Situational awareness is only half the solution. We should aim for situational understanding. What say you, Richard?
Absolutely, situational aware. Well, what you do when you go through a process. So this isn't. We've got the security risk management process. This is the tool within the actual process with the threat identification. So what we're doing is we're identifying threats. The situational awareness will allow us to identify the threats. We then have to analyze those threats to see if they will impact against our organization. So yes, absolutely, I understand. You're understanding the threats and how they will actually impact on the assets that you're trying to protect. Spot on. Well done. Yeah.
All right, cool. So how do we use this in our daily lives?
Okay, right. Eyes and ears open all the time, just being aware of the dangers. As I said to you, if it doesn't look right, it's not right. Organizations have to use it. You have to be aware. We are living in turbulent times right now. The threat analysis, the risk analysis changes. It's dynamic. So we should be having a look at this all the time. We need to be reassessing continually. We really are. Now, again, I'm conscious of time. We are getting into this. We're knocking on the 15-minute mark. We're going to be making a video of this. It's going to be going on the YouTube channel. If you're a member of the Security Institute, you will get continued professional development points for this. Please email me. I'll put the email in the chat below, and I will send you off a certificate. And sign up for the newsletter, because you'll get prior warning to these coming out. And just use this. Use this as a source. This is the course that I teach in micro learning style. It will save you a lot of money.
Guys, well, I think once again, Rchard has opened my eyes, certainly to stuff that I'd ignored. I'd suggest we do keep our eyes and ears open, but by the same token, you don't have to be apprehensive. You just have to be awake. Rchard, thank you once again for at least pointing us to that. Watch out for next week. Next week, what will we be talking about?
We're going to be talking about insider threat.
All right.
Insider threat before we move on to vulnerability. So insider threat is a biggie. So we'll be talking about that next week.
So watch out for that, guys. And of course, we love your comments. Thank you, whoever you were, for that comment. Please, more. That's great. Shows that you're taking notice. But as I said, do come back to this. We will be issuing these onto YouTube and also repeating them again at some point at a later date. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And watch out next week for another Whiteboard Wednesday. Until then, take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.